Chad. Problem.
What?
Major problem.
All right.
Cats and dogs are like living together.
Pigs are flying.
There is a blood red moon, like 2 of them.
Hell has frozen over.
The comet has 2 tails, for crying out loud.
There's another election.
Yeah, that one's pretty bad.
Yes!
Yes!
Oh, I've been waiting for the apocalypse my whole life. It's my time, finally. Wait.
The armory has got zombies in it. What's he doing to the car?
Okay.
But he's...
I'm ready.
What is that?
Tire armor.
Tire armor.
Yeah, tire armor. I couldn't get to the armory, so I had to make something.
Well,
That's not going to work.
that might
Of course,
work.
of course it'll
It's not
work.
going to work.
That might work.
Oh, I think it will.
Let's test it.
Yeah, all right, go and test it.
Oh.
Not on me. I'll go make you guys something.
But the zombies, Shad. We need to test it on you.
Oh, don't worry. They're too busy looking for brains.
Yeah, then
Funnily enough, they're not finding many.
Yeah.
So.
We're what you call professionals. So you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. We're going to be testing apocalyptic tire armor. But before we do, this content costs quite a bit of money to make. If you wanted to support the channel and help us out, there are links down below to things like Player, Subscribe Star. We have YouTube memberships available, of course, and Patreon, where we have exclusive behind the scenes content. We get up to a lot of crazy stuff around here, so I'm sure there might be something you'll enjoy there. So check them out, help support out the channel. We'd really appreciate it. But let's get on to the testing. Well, I think this is a good lineup. But before we start testing, there are some things we should talk about with tires in particular. So we have, obviously we had to craft our own tire armor.
Yeah.
And let's just say it was not as easy as you expect. Tire is made out of very, very dense hard rubber.
And it has steel all the way throughout it. Now, I thought originally it was steel bars running through, but it looked like tiny steel plates running all the way through. It was...
Now, it has steel wire. We're talking lots of steel wire.
Tightly wound.
Yes, so actually, cutting on it this sort of angle isn't that hard. But when you're cutting against it, you're cutting...
Through it to create plates or bigger, larger plates to cover the chest. We ended up going and buying a specific tool here at Shadowversity to get through it. And we bought the first set of blades and we killed them. And we bought the second set of blades and it killed them.
Tires are no joke, and making armor out of them, there's a reason why we're testing this in this video, because I think it's going to be quite effective.
I'm worried about how encumbered I'm going to be and how much it's going to weigh. That does make a good frisbee.
Yeah, it does. Why don't we get started testing? Why don't we go over and show you guys our armor that we made specifically for today's video?
It's so orky. Come and check this out.
Here is our Boromir.
Yeah, he is looking orky. I mean, look at this.
What do you guys think? You like the armor? I know the craftsmanship is a little bit shoddy.
Oh yeah, but we explained that.
Yeah, tire is really hard to work with, but this can be worn by a person, not just Boromir, so you can actually wear this, Nate.
Thanks.
But we're gonna start with our axe. We'll start with the big axe here. Now, I think today is one of those days where it's just a full send sort of day.
Full send?
Yeah, every single weapon
It's got
we
a big
test.
spike on the back though, like, and this is bouncy.
I know, but instead of cutting through 1,000 different shots, let's just do one each as hard as we can with every weapon. So if there's a catastrophic failure, you guys will be the first to see. Should be fun.
Well, yeah, except for maybe, you know, the local nurses.
Well, do remember,
Doctors,
it's supposed to be a apocalyptic armor.
All right, let's go full send.
All right, you want to start off with the axe, or you want me to start off with the axe?
I'll start. I don't know if I want to go full send, but I'll start.
So this is actually blunt. This isn't even sharp, and that was able to do that to this. Oh, got caught. Oh, we got that now.
Whereas we actually have something sharp, so if it's doing that much damage with something blunt, how about we try it with something sharp?
Let's do it. So as you guys can tell, I did a couple of hacks and slashes and thrusts because nothing was really happening. We've even got here a little bit of red paint on the edge of this blade and where it came off here, and there is no damage.
Yeah. And even the resistance that the armor was actually giving, I felt like was reverberating back down the sword. Like this just felt tough.
Now, this sword sounded very bad. And this sword is still solid. Like, this sword is fine. It's actually fine. It was just the sound of hitting this rubber.
Yeah, it sent the reverberation back that I actually heard the blade right down near the throat of the crossguard vibrating the crossguard. Like, that was not a healthy sound.
But the sword did nothing. It did nothing.
I mean, it scratched it.
It did nothing.
It scratched.
But now I think, why don't we move? You want to do some half sorting?
Yeah.
I think
it's going to do nothing. I reckon we'll knock him on his butt. That's about it.
Just because that, why don't you just do it real quick? We'll see what happens. If anything, let's do that.
I'll go get it. That does nothing.
Absolutely nothing, as expected. It's time we move on to the spear, the king of the battlefield, and we have this is actually a very sharp spear.
It is.
A very pointy spear.
It is.
Let's see if we can get all the way through this, because so far the only weapon that I would consider effective has been
the spike,
the
on
spike
the
on
back
the
of the
blunt
axe.
of an axe. Like, it was blunt,
Yeah.
blunt spike. But yeah, you can start off with this one.
We'll give it a shot.
So we got him in the end. Now, I think some of these shots went all the way through, but I don't think any of them are deadly at all. Especially if you had a Gambison or something underneath.
And when you say all the way through, you mean like this much is showing out of the back of the arm by all the way through.
Which to me, that doesn't count. Like this level of protection is actually shockingly effective.
It is.
Wow.
So I think so far the most deadly weapon we've used is the blunt beak on the end of on the back of the axe, the little spike.
Yeah, that was actually getting through rather spectacularly, because we found that so far with the whip, it would take the gaps in the armor. With the arrows, whoa, would it take the gaps in the armor? But
So we've spoken about this at the start of the video, that there is steel wire running all the way through the tire. Now, I was a little bit apprehensive about this at the beginning, because what happens when these very nice metal swords and spears actually do penetrate a bit of the rubber? They're going to hit that wire. Do you want to see the tip of that?
Yeah, wow.
You can see all that little...
something...
There's actually, wow.
That's serration and ripping.
There's serration and damage to the...
Now this is something that we don't usually test in Shadowversity. If this was a firearms test, that would be shrapnel.
Oh, yep. That little cracking sound you heard is actually the steel wire. And we can show you, we're going to get some B-roll of these tips, because you can see where there's new shiny bits where the steel has actually hit. So as a bit of a recap of all the weapons, well, first off we used the axe. Now, actually using the cutting edge of the axe did nothing.
Not really much.
Nothing.
I mean, it scratched it.
Yeah, but even then, like when we talk, like for example, when we did the Gambison testing, we spoke about breaking ribs underneath. But the reason you would break ribs is because they have give, so they're supposed to. This doesn't have any give.
No.
This is kind of just solid.
There's some. I mean, it's not as solid as a metal plate, but
do remember,
it's pretty stiff.
That's the cross section. The give is this sort of way.
Yeah.
So you've got a little bit, but
You'd have to chop with an axe that way
Yeah.
to hit the center of mass. But
Yeah.
chopping this way, It seemed okay with the angles of what we had.
It just didn't even want to bite in, really.
No.
And then when we switched it around,
different story completely. Like that axe, as we showed, it's blunt. Like, but it went through.
So the flexibility thing, right, that can actually be considered a virtue because there are some armor that you want to be flexible. And so this is so effectively like, resistive to penetration.
There's a few caveats here because there's literal smoke coming off from this tire armor at the moment. This has just withstood a lot of high heat, so it is a little bit more flexible than usual.
And also, like when you've got it right up against your throat and I pulled down on it, like I felt that flex, but as soon as I let go, it sprung back. So you would have to form it and shape it to exactly what you want, or else.
Well, in regards to lighter weight materials, like
it's a rubber. I wouldn't really like. It's light.
Like, is this as light as a metal plate? And I'm talking about like armor grade metal plates of same size
a
dimensions.
metal plate is definitely heavier, but that feels more dense. As weird as that sounds to say, like it feels chunkier and thicker.
Yeah, it is. It's heavy,
dense.
Relatively speaking.
Dense.
It's no more heavy than something like a full breastplate or something like that. It's.
Well, I would say, depending on thicknesses, that's where the weight of armor can really vary. And metal armor is not as heavy as people suppose, but when you pick up a chainmail hauberk,
different story.
And it's the way that it's distributed that makes it feel lighter when you wear it. I think this comes in like noticeably lighter than what metal would be, especially when it gets thicker. And that's one of its big virtues in terms of how protective it is for its weight.
Well, there's also a little bit of a caveat to that because we were using just standard road tires, nothing crazy, but we've even got a tire down here that's more for a truck. The thickness of that is very different.
We were not going to cut through that with the tools that we had.
And then if you go to something like a motorbike, you're going to get different thickness again. So this is a very variable degree, but for these...
That's a pretty standard car tire.
This is very standard. Standard size, standard tread, all that sort of stuff.
Standard. My eyes are burning.
How beneficial do you think the metal wire was in this?
Super.
In fact, something to actually note is when I was cutting through this, we were taking, as we said at the start of the video, forever to cut through. I found one batch where there was no metal and I just went through the rubber. So it's like butter.
Very significant then, because what we're seeing here are the massive benefits of a composite material.
Yes.
This is almost like reinforced concrete where you have steel through the concrete. This is steel through the rubber.
So,
it's steel reinforced rubber, essentially.
Basically, when I was making some of the earlier versions of the armor where I was cutting off the ring on the inside, where, as you can see, this is where the steel wire starts, and the razor blade, just the standard $2 razor blade, straight through it, no problem. So we'll throw in some of the B-roll of that so you can see how easy it is. But as soon as you get to the steel wire, and another little bit of tip, it is when we were trying to drill the holes for all the cording to actually make stuff, you can hear the drill bit crunching on the steel wire. The steel wire is paramount. The rubber's great, but as we saw with the arrow tips, it's what's actually really stopping stuff.
You're right. There was the steel that was stopping the arrow tips because we actually heard it on the steel. We saw damage on the arrows from the steel. It makes me wonder what type of steel is in this stuff.
I don't think it doesn't matter. It's 2 layers. Well, I think we got some B-roll before anyway, but it's actually just 2 layers of thin steel wire, and there's just a lot of it.
There's heaps, but like it feels like strong stuff. Like there is this little thing. There is a bit out here, and I'm having trouble. One tiny wire is out. I'm having trouble bending it. So it is strong steel. Like my impression of this is, which makes it really effective in terms of the composite benefits it gives.
Yeah. There's a reason why we use it on cars.
Yeah, I think that it actually shows, like you said, with the composite material, because you've got all that suspension ring coming from the rubber, but then you add the metal to it, and you can't get through that mesh. Yeah. Well, most of the time you can't get through that mesh.
Yeah.
With the spike, I think that's what actually, it might have just got through 1 or 2 and pushed the rest out of the way.
It's really intriguing because, like, chainmail, right? One of the weaknesses with chainmail isn't necessarily the steel, it's the fact that there's enough spaces around the steel that you can push it apart. There's nothing, if there was something holding that ring in place so the ring wouldn't give, an arrow wouldn't get through it. It's like if it was braced all around it, the ring would hold up. What we're seeing here is kind of that effect where the rubber is holding all this steel in place,
so
which makes
it to move, making it stronger again.
Exactly. So both materials are strengthening it considerably so, which makes it a vastly more protective. Like that's more protective than chainmail. Like that's
We
significant.
weren't able to get through with the sword, the spear.
We got with the arrows. When we got the gaps, it was fine.
To me, that's design. That's a flaw of design, not flaw of material.
I'd agree.
If we had a way to cut this better and easier, we could make like a full body segmented,
So
but
maybe-
also overlapping
maybe if-
armor. That would be crazy good.
Exactly. So maybe if we're talking about it in regards of apocalypse armor, first thing you grab, you just cut it and go. It's going to be okay. It's going to have gaps. But if you have a chance to like hunker down for a couple of weeks, really make a good set of armor, it's probably actually a good stuff.
Like seriously, like in an apocalyptic situation where you needed really effective armor,
And all you had was like a garbage tip.
but what were the materials you have mostly available? Like, I mean, think about it, because people might say car doors. Car doors metal is too thin. Like we got through the car door easier than we got through this.
Yes.
The best material you would have on hand is unironically car tires at the moment. Well, I can't think of a better material you could make armor out of that's readily available in an apocalyptic scenario.
The trope works.
It does.
Now, something about, because everybody keeps dogging my design here, because I'm the one who actually put this thing together. But in terms of a design, we have 6 pieces. We have 1, 2 on the torso, 1 and 2 on the back, and then our little shoulder pauldrons. In terms of cutting and working with this material, it sucks. But making effective armor with pretty much 3 to 4 cuts, because we'll basically just go cut, cut, and then another little cut to get 2 little shoulders. It's actually not that bad. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah. One of the other things that, like, again, the damage in terms of piercing and other things like that, it's almost hard to see.
Yeah.
Like
Tire armor is legit. This stuff works.
Well, we were
I
swinging
think
really strong with the axe, with the sword, and scratching it.
so. I think this stuff is absolutely perfect for a post-apocalypse. I mean, even if it wasn't a post-apocalypse, just if you want some legit armor that's easy to make.
There's one
relatively
big
speaking.
flaw:
What's that?
bullets.
Yeah. I think the shrapnel that you would get from...
We haven't been able to test it. Like, obviously it'll get through one layer, but how many layers could stop a bullet?
Right. Because it's very thick.
It's thick.
And it's got, at minimum, for this tie that we have here, has 2 layers of steel wire, which is what is, 1 layer is basically what's stopping all that kinetic energy of things like arrows.
I was going to say, I could be wrong, but after a couple of layers, my assumption, based on what I've seen with other things of firearms, is it would stop small caliber. As soon as you get up to like something like a 45, that's when it's going.
Oh, yeah.
That's when it's going.
But our Boromir is still on fire, so I think it's time we wrap this up and sign out.
Because it's a little bit stinky. But speaking of fire, like, this was a fire video. It's like,
It was.
It'd be good if we could, do something else.
I wonder if you could get
fire.
through that with a fire sword.
Well, you could.
Because it actually heats up the blade and it will melt, get through.
It would, I'm pretty sure it'd like sizzle a steak. We should test that at some
We've
stage.
already tested fire swords.
We have?
It's another one of those great videos that I think doesn't have nearly as much love as it deserves. So we're going to put it right here so you can click on check out, because it's heaps of fun, like genuine fire swords. And that's another video that, wow, we were surprised
good.
with the results.
It was dangerous and fun and fire. You should check it out.
So I hope to see you there. And until that time, farewell. You can still click. Right there.
We're just going to wait here.
Look,
How's
hold
your
it
day?
up
How's your day? Mine was all right.
Yeah.
No.
Of course yours is all right. You got to whip me.
Yeah. I really like that, actually.
The fire sword video is way more interesting than what we're doing now. We're just...
Oh, hold up. Whoa.
No, he's right.
Now, we're at the end of the video. The video's
at
over.
the end of the video. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like, if you're here watching this, which is uninteresting, why are you not clicking on the video, which is vastly
I'm
more
gonna watch
interesting?
We're going to put Boromir out.